Now we're live. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Danieltown Council meeting for October 2nd. Call this this meeting to order. As we all always do, we have a public comment concerning, we have time for public comment concerning any issue that's not on the agenda. It's limited to 2 minutes, so I open that up to the public. If there is any comment that someone would like to make. We will move on to item number 2, which is discussion of Terry Welch's property located at 487 Cobble Creek Lane in Daniel, possible rezone application. Terry, I'll ask you.
All righty.
I thought,
You want me up there, sir?
yeah, you,
Okay.
That's kind of, now we have the appropriate time and venue to discuss things that you're interested in.
Okay. Do you guys still have your packets from last time? Okay. Mr. Bunker has his.
Mine's in my office. If you have them, I think you're
Okay. I have some more on their way, but they didn't make it here yet. And what I had discussed with you guys last time was the fact that in 2002, the county did some rezoning. And my parcel was changed from a grazing zone to a P160. In the grazing zone, I could have put, I have 2 separate parcels, one which has my home on it, which is not quite 5 acres, 4.9, and then the other 32 acres. That includes my pasture and my hay field and mountain grass. When they changed that designation, they basically devalued my property because I can't do anything with the 32 acre piece that I have. I can't even put a caretaker's cottage on it in the P160 zoning. And so what I've asked the council to do, which you have authority to do under the ordinance that is attached, is to change my P160 designation to an RA5 for both parcels. I'm not looking to do any changes as far as making the 32 acres into 5 acre pieces. But I would like, in the event that I sell it, that the buyers would have some options if they wanted to do that at one point. But I believe strongly, and the county planner has attached an email, or I've attached his email, showing that the council and the planning department made large changes to the land use planning code in 2002 in the county zoning. Then when we incorporated as a township, which I was highly involved in at the time, they just carried that zone over, and I still was not aware of it, unfortunately. It wasn't until I put the property on the market and buyers started coming to me and saying, we can't do anything with your P160 zoning, that I realized I have a very serious problem.
No, it was a couple of years ago.
It's been going on for a couple of years.
There you go. Better word, okay.
We get people that are really, really interested, and all of a sudden they drop away, and we didn't know why. We just barely found out the end of July, because a buyer actually came to us and said, we can't do anything with your property. You have 32 acres that has pretty much no value to it. So I've asked the council if you would initiate a zone change on that, which you have the authority to do, to give me back the value of my property.
So are you?
Hold this for me.
So this is the 32 and this is the 14. Correct.
And this is this more flatter area there, or is it?
The flat is like here. This we have divided into pasture and an alfalfa field, and then the slope goes up from there. Okay. I said that I don't want to go to the expense of surveying which is the mountain and which is the flat, which is why I just asked you guys at this point.
Another question, is pasture. And this is field and pasture. Are they 5 acres or more?
No, they're about 4.5. Give or take. But I could, if I wanted to, I could split it this way and make 3 or 4 parcels out there. But I don't have any need for that, and I don't have any desire to do that at this time.
And I'm also, I understand that wasn't yours the only property, there's a few by the gun club lower and Jack
Yes.
Rose and things that all didn't get changed. Yours was
Yes,
the only one
Jack's
that
is still RA5. Val Ellis is next to me, east of me. Here, Mr. Mayor. Did you give yours away, Mr. Bunker?
Nope, I got it right here. I can't give it away, I have no phone.
There were, Mr. Ellis's, the flat is RA5, the mountain, some of the mountain is P160. Which is,
So his property is broken up into P160 side of it, and then he drives RA5 on the side thing. And then
it's all the same parcel.
Yeah, but on the same part.
as far as the area that you have, how much is the flood zone, or do you know or not know, or does the council know?
The home is not in the flood zone, and I'm not sure about the pasture. I know that when the new flood zone maps came out,
This year, the new.
the new one, I think it was last year. They probably just got disseminated this year, but I think the dates are last year. My home was in the floodplain before, but it's no longer in the floodplain. And so I'm not sure how much of the pasture would, I haven't looked into that there, I can check and see, but
At this point, I just didn't more about trying to figure it out as much. Do you have, I mean, I know you just mentioned, you know, maybe you want to do 5 acre lots going up the hill, maybe you don't, maybe that flat.
not at this time, not for this purpose. I just want to be able to market my property as,
Something.
yes, as something, because I had one buyer that was very serious, that really did their due diligence. This is the buyer that came to me. And their parents are retiring and wanted to build a little caretaker cottage out on the 32 acres to be close to their grandkids, and they couldn't do that on the 32 acres because of this zone. So, it is very, in your codes, you talk about not having the zoning devalued property. And my entire premise on this is that when the county did this in 2002, they completely devalued my property.
And you do have I remember you have a letter, basically almost confirming those facts and or.
Correct.
At least,
From Travis Hare, the Wasatch County Planning Department.
and he could not explain why you were separated out from anybody else, it just was.
He had no idea. When he looked at it on his computer, he thought that my ground was all mountain. Looking at it on his computer, he said, no, I have a hayfield, I have a pasture. And he said, well, maybe that's why they just designated it the P160 because I doubt that they came out to my home to look, and they just figured it was all mountain, and that's what they classified it as.
And would you be open to the same thing that Val had as far as part of your state 160, P160, and some may not?
I don't have a problem with that, except that I didn't want to go to the expense of surveying it. That's why I was asking it to be handled this way. Because then we'd have to decide where the line is. What's gonna be this, what's gonna be that.
Which may or may not, depending on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it probably, the person buys, or the person buys it is gonna have a survey.
We did surveys when we bought it, but if they want to do anything with it, they would have to do that, John, but
Yeah,
I don't, if they're only gonna put a caretaker cottage out there, then I don't know if that would be necessary.
so are you selling your house too then? Oh, okay. A whole enchilada? Hey,
Too big for one person.
are you staying in the valley?
We're working on that.
Okay, any other importance that you'd want us to know at this point, or
Jeff, can you think of anything else? that-
covered everything?
Like covered everything, because,
No notice to the notice.
hmm?
There was no notice.
Right, there was no notice to us that this had been
And
done.
that one that also confirmed by the county?
Yes.
There was no notice?
Yes. Mhm. He says in the reorganization, this is Travis's words, in the reorganization, they consolidated several zones and renamed and rezoned it and gave new regulations. Your property in 2001 was designated as being in the grazing zone. This could have allowed for a caretaker dwelling on any acreage with the approval of the planning commission. In 2002, it was redesignated as preservation or P160 that requires 160 acres to create a lot. It doesn't allow caretaker dwellings unless a main dwelling has already been built on that particular parcel. I have two distinct different parcels. So my 32 acres, even though it's zoned P160, I can't do anything with it because I don't have 160 acres. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I was gonna ask that, is, I was gonna bring it to, if there's any public comment now, then bring it up to the council to see what we might wanna do. Does anyone have any other comment that might add to this?
Concerns, questions, comments?
This is for the council now.
What about the possibility of, you know, splitting those? That's one deal, and it's,
Well, at this point, I think that she's looking for, we will, we have the ability to bring a zone change prior to, so it's already, the deadline's already passed for an application to rezone, as far as, so.
Right, that passed July 15th.
And so with that being said, we can, the council, give the authorization to add it to apply. So she doesn't have to wait till next year. And that's what she's really looking for tonight. As far as the breakups and things, I think the planning, everybody would be good on that. Is that?
This is what it says.
Next question.
This is what it says as far as your authority. It's in your little packet. After July 15th, the item may not be heard until the following year unless initiated by the planning commission or the town council. That's in section 8.02.52C.
for petition.
So she's here tonight asking, I would call for a motion to we want to have this discussed in central planning and have her, first of all, start the application. Before we get to that point, though, Eric, any comments or?
Well, there's a few things. I did a little bit of research, so you'll be able to see on this map the floodplain out a little bit. You can see it comes out into the edge of the, pasture. Here. So you see the little dots?
Oh,
Mhm.
That's your floodplain. so you can see that as it goes down. That's the new map that came out. Like you said, it went into effect last year, but the map came out this July. So-
Right.
So you can see that the house has been removed from the floodplain that was on the original map. I assume that you got an engineer to,
She's got,
And I will specify that part of that floodplain there's a half acre approximately that belongs to, used to be Paul Phelps's property. It's on our side of the creek. So part
It's
of,
out here, Terry, it's
yeah,
right here.
but that's part of that floodplain and not us, because that's great.
It's right here, it's that piece, because the creek goes right here.
Right. So, yeah, not much of it is on the floodplain.
and so that, and actually that property's been transferred. Council has an application before
Yes.
them right now on that property.
Yeah, somebody else purchased it.
And Eric, with the floodplain though, that's all in a planning process or whatever. might
It
be.
is, but the reason that map comes into play so much is you'll be able to see on this map that those two parcels have separate numbers.
Right.
And so, basically, this parcel is separate from this parcel. And I know the county's combined them in recent years, but this parcel,
No, they're separate, they're completely separate
they're
parcels.
completely separate,
They're
so you
completely
can build on
combined.
this 32 acres.
No,
No, because it's
they got it
preservation.
on 160.
because it's.
I know, but but the lot it was created, if the lot's created, you don't, that's not, if. let's
You're
see.
no longer, your grandfather did.
Right.
Okay,
In other words, I have 3 acres. I'm in an RA5 zone,
right,
but I'm a lot. That's
Yes.
what, I was created legally when it was created.
okay.
Just because they changed the zoning, you can still continue.
Okay,
And so that's where that comes into play. Now, I'm gonna,
I get 2 separate property tax bills.
yeah, so you're separate,
So there are 2
we got-
separate parcels.
Okay, so we got Ryan and Kimberly back here in the back, that's our engineering company.
Right.
And so I'd like to bounce that question to them about the separate parcel. And do you need to view this map? Kim, you're the one that sent it to me, so.
Actually, I have it pulled up too.
Okay,
We've got the map.
Okay,
So usually when we've had that lot of record issue, we've had, it comes to the council, and we've had the applicant document when it was formed and verified that it was formed legally. But to date, and it's up to the council's discretion, but to date, when it was shown that it was formed legally, we've allowed applicants to build even when it didn't meet the current zoning. We've had other lots that we couldn't prove when they were built, and that's another story, or when they were constructed.
okay.
Yeah, when we created
So
it,
so let me ask Terry, do you have a lot of record certificate?
no,
Okay.
and I had I had Mr. Hare check, to see if he could find any certificates in the files, and he did not find any.
You did fine.
So,
So do we know when that lot was created? We don't know. So we'll have to,
I believe it goes back to
That would have been
Ritchie's.
prior to the Wrens.
Yes, I believe it went back to the Ritchies.
So,
so we'll have to do,
Richie.
we'll have to go to the recorder's office and look and
Yeah.
see when that was created and if it was legally created, because that becomes the issue on a second lot. But as Ryan was telling you, today, if somebody's been able to produce a document that says it was legally created or prove to the council it was created legally, they have upheld that.
Okay,
I'm not saying that will happen here, but that's what's happened in the past. So
okay.
the county has come to us and told us we're under no obligation to do that. But-
Right,
but-
right, and Mr. Harris said the authority is all with you, but it is also your discretion.
Yes,
So, that's why I'm here.
right. And so that, with that information, do you still want to move forward with RA5?
I would like to because of the value factor that a potential buyer might find in, I mean, at one point, we talked about making 4 lots out there and the kids and I would sell the big house and we'd all move out there. But they went and bought houses someplace else, I don't understand. So. Right.
but anyway.
So I I would prefer, it would help me tremendously if I could designate this as RA5 on my listing, my property listing. I can go back to that buyer now and
Well,
say,
and I wanna make sure that, so I understand, I believe, so the lots that were still in P160 before that have been built on it were made a lot, but the zone was still P160, and we have some of those. But Eric, and I just want to make sure you're correct, but maybe you are, so he's saying you may already have two lots that are rebuildable
possibly, yes, he's
right
saying
now
that.
without going to that, so.
He's saying that.
So that's why I'm saying, if he was only looking at one lot, then you're already there with
As long as we come,
potentially.
as long as we find that it was created legally.
Right.
And I would have to look into this because this raises big questions, but in the event that it was not,
Everything else. It's never any.
you found that out, haven't you, Mr. Bunker?
No, that's fine.
I think Barry got something.
Yes,
Just 2 points. We've had more than one buyer walk away. Preservation has stared off,
oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna say like 3 potential buyers. As soon as they found out it was preservation, the subject was over and they walked away. Number 2, the steepness of the ground isn't really going to lend itself to being able to divide it into, skinny, long lots going up the mountain because the mountain ground's too steep to build on. You're only building at the base of the mountain on that pasture or in the hayfield. So as far as what somebody would do, they're going to be pretty limited in what they can do. But as far as value goes, no notice given. So far, the best that anybody is willing to look at us is at least 50% less than what we're asking. Actually, it's more like 60% less than what we've been asking, or what anybody else could get in that area. And so this thing has really thrown a wrench into what we can do with our land and what we can't do with it. And that's all I wanted to bring up.
Another question.
So there's just one more thing that I need to let you know before you say
Okay.
that you still want to proceed, because the property is where it is, it falls into geological overlay zone. And so there's other requirements associated with the property that, Brian, I'll have to kick this to you. I'm from the engineering department. In the geological hazard overlay zone, with those requirements that are required,
So there would be a few in a rezone, but most of that would come in and building. So
Right.
those would be, depending on where you wanted to build, we would require additional studies for the flood and the landslide and whatever else I can't remember over there. There's a fault somewhere not too far away.
There's a fault everywhere.
and so I guess that's true. For the rezone, that doesn't, but when the lots come in is when that could get very expensive.
Yeah, so for the rezone, I don't see it being too big a hurdle, but it would be something we potential builders would need to deal with.
I have a question. If this was split into 2 buildable lots, could there be a private road or driveway going to that?
What we have is a private road now.
Does it
meet fire code?
Can that be extended in?
Yes.
Okay.
Cobble Creek Lane is private, we allow it ourselves.
So this part tonight, I feel you've got special circumstances. I see there's your neighbors and everything. I believe what your due diligence with the county and things. I would have no problem taking a motion to at least accept your application in whichever way you want it to go, knowing that there may be pros on this way, going this way versus pros on this way, but I know you have spent a lot of time and looked at other, so I myself, as the mayor, would take a motion to at least entertain your application and not make you wait another year to look at it. So,
I appreciate that.
Chairman, take a motion, you able to do that?
I'll make a motion to entertain the idea of splitting it up.
Okay. You have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, first and a second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
So now the process then is I need to get the application and
In the meantime, find out on that lot of record previous.
Yes, I'll check with the county about that, and I need to submit it to the planning commission, is that
Right,
correct?
yeah, GDA, so you'll turn that in down to GDA, you'll probably be working with Kim really back
I
there.
know, right?
Yeah, and so you'll be working with them, you'll submit the application, it will go to planning, and then they will make a recommendation back to council. They can't change the zoning, but they make a recommendation.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 3, which is business license applicants. Turn time over to Eric.
Okay, we have 4 renewals. This month we have Suburban Propane, Housekeeping by Dawn, Tinder Touch Massage, and Great Escapes. So all the paperwork with them.
Hopefully you've had any kind of a complaint or anything on any of these, do we? It's a long-standing renewal.
Yeah.
Eric, did you receive the application for the massage, Tinder Touch massage?
Everything I have is right there. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
you got it right, Eric. You see, it's an application.
Oh, okay.
You want this
I didn't
copy?
keep any.
You want this copy now?
Okay? Nothing else on 3?
That was it for business license.
And discussion of using an attorney for filing a mechanics lien in collection matters. Last month, we discussed this, we put it on today's agenda to discuss it. I don't know, Kim, there we go, I don't know. So, since last meeting, have you had any discussions or not? As I thought through this for tonight's agenda, I remembered there's not a whole lot of folks that this would apply to, but there are certainly times when it would be really nice to have. Isn't that kind of what we said last time? As far as, you don't anticipate a lot of liens being placed, but there's probably be most likely a few.
Well, I think when we talk about an attorney to do the collections, it's basically on property that's been foreclosed on, and the title company could be out of state that's handling all of this. And they just don't have a public record that that property has a water bill with the town of Daniel. And so what happens, they close out, and the next thing you know, the town of Daniel's out that money. The circumstance doesn't happen a lot, but I think it's a good idea when one of these properties go into foreclosure that we have an attorney that files a mechanics lien, states the amount, and then gets it collected. And it most likely would happen through public notice and the title companies. I can only think of about 3 or 4 times that that's happened, but it can be a fairly good sum of money because it takes sometimes a year to move some of those properties or longer. But to me, it's just a system that needs to be implemented in the AR affairs of the town.
Okay. So I believe that, as we brought on to tonight's discussion, does the council feel that the few that we may need, I can certainly see a need, so we don't have to follow and watch and worry about the lien itself, if there are certain due dates and things on it. I mean, that would be the attorneys, if there had to be a refile or another refile, I can see that being a positive. I can see expense being a negative. What does the council think?
So it'd still be under the council's control, whether we do it or not, right? We exercise it, depending on the amount.
I mean, yeah, we'd be given instructions at the time of, you needed to
Yeah.
utilize the attorney, if that's the direction we
Yeah,
want to utilize.
but we also tack on their attorney's fees too, I would imagine.
Anybody have an idea what that might, let's just do an attorney right now, that's like $1,000, I know $1,000 is kind of.
It's like Walmart, you can't get out for $100. Go to attorney, you can't get out for $1,000.
You know, I did not call any attorneys to see what it would take if they did kind of have some kind of arrangement with the town with regards to a fee that might come up to send that letter so we don't have to track it.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on it?
think it'd be a good idea if we have that tool in the bag.
Don't you guys have a retainer with an attorney?
Yeah, we have a town attorney, but there may be one local that can do something real simple like this, where our other attorney may have a guy that can do it or not. I haven't brought it from yet, that's what we'll discuss. We certainly have it done.
We have a real good attorney, but he's real expensive too.
Simple things might cost a little more from him than, another attorney. That's the thought.
Is to maybe get somebody local that, I think we probably ought to really check with some other municipalities and see what their process is.
Okay?
Maybe they have a shortcut that we can jump on to.
Okay. I can go with that. I think Charleston and some of the other smaller, not either city, but Charleston, maybe Walsburg or something.
Say, most of those, in Midway, like they'll have their own attorney that they have on staff.
Just so you know, we have if we have to use an attorney in the county, then we have an agreement, we're going to agree with the county to use that side of the law, then we have our own attorney that handles ours.
I think nothing short of just finding out what they're charged, I think. Just being able to use the attorney.
I like the concept, Kim. I'll find out and get at least 2 or 3 different bids of what around here might charge for. And then we'll be able to make a decision off the cost of all 3 may. I think it's a good idea. Probably ought to, before we make any kind of motion, we think about it, find out what cost might be involved.
Oh, and I think the process, the cost and the process are both unknown.
Is there anybody that fall in this right now?
I kind of wonder also if maybe your water secretary might be able to file that herself with the state without using an attorney. Because I could file a lien on somebody else's project as a contractor without an attorney.
Well, and for sure, some of the discussion we had though is not necessarily we want to use an attorney, but sometimes there might be renewals and things, and to have, it could get complicated, so yeah, it may not be the way we go, it may be too expensive, but it may be fairly simple if you knew.
I thought the lien stayed on the property until it was satisfied.
It doesn't last so many years, I think, but I don't know for sure.
My understanding, they need to be renewed after X amount of time. I don't know what that time is. I think they used to be that way, but they made it much harder now for contractors to collect the state did. So that's the gray area. So I will find out then the correct cost. I guess we could continue this and I'll find this out for next month.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do is find out more information.
So moved.
And then if we decide to go that way, then we'll look for an attorney local. Be able to handle that.
Or paralegal.
Yeah.
Shall I entertain a motion to make that happen? Or to continue?
I made the motion to continue.
A motion to continue?
Second.
And a second? Any comment? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then we'll continue that to next month, and I will call at least 2 to 3 attorneys to find out what that fee might be. Is there any other, besides mechanic lien, is there any other lien that you can think of, a term or another name of a lien that might apply, or is it just definitely a mechanic lien in this situation?
Well, there's another instrument called a notice of interest. And it doesn't carry the wallop that a lien does, but it lets everybody that's involved with the sale of that property know that someone has an interest in it, and then they'll search it at that point in time. That's a little simpler to file, but at the same time, it might have some areas where there's loopholes in it. But when you're trying to close properties at these title companies, you get talking the amount of money we're talking about, and that's not going to stop things from foreclosing. I mean, most of the time they proceed with that and everybody gets what they're supposed to. It's when it's not a public record that a lot of times the town will get hurt.
Okay. We'll get down to the bottom of that, and I'll have an answer next month for that. Think about it, number 4. Discussion of signage needed in Daniels, a list of locations and wording to supply to Wasatch County Public Works. did get some clarity on what we can and can't do with regards to our signs. The clarity was we can put whatever sign we want in our property, our right of way, for the most part. When I say the most part, all the signs that I read off, the language, whether it was no through street, dead end street, no school access, speed limits, whether it's in our roadway, we have the authority and jurisdiction to put those signs in. We had some up at Stormhaven, some list of certain signs, speed limit 15, children at play. I'd like us to identify, and I've talked to Ryan a little bit about, being able to identify, I don't know if we need every one of these signs up, but we probably certainly need a few of these signs in certain locations, and so.
Lights to the right.
And so, talk with Ryan, and if we can get these identified here shortly, we'll be able to get, well, one of them would be a stop sign ahead. We're missing some of those signs. You know, no one stops at them anyway, but there used to be some stop signs. I would like, especially where we got a good crowd tonight, I'd like to know signs of, I think a no through street up on that end, and maybe a no school access. There's already a sign on that that kind of indicates to folks that they can't use that area, use that entrance. I throw this out to all of you. Any signs that anyone here is aware of that we need? I have some already that we need. I'm just wondering if you guys. We have some up on, like I say, near the school and on Little Sweden, and we also have some coming up in Stormhaven that might need to be placed. Other than that, I can't think of any other placing for signs.
But this isn't stop signs though.
This would be if the stop sign's been there and gone, been run over or stolen. Yeah, we're talking all the signs that need to either be replaced, but the stop sign ahead would definitely be the prior sign before, and we've had those that they've been taken or gone or broken or something.
But I'm saying you can't, this isn't the place where you're asking if we want to give our opinion if you would put a stop sign at 3000 South in Big Hollow.
You know, if that was something that somebody wanted, we'd look at that. I'm trying to identify where and what signs are needed in the town, so that's.
That'd be a good place to put one.
Yeah, I want to put one there.
Would slow my wife.
Coming down 3,000 both ways or both ways?
Yeah, I think that the county, if you look back on Center Creek and then also on 1200 South, this is probably 10 years ago, but they put in those four-way stops, and for about 2 years, there was a lot of people who had a lot of heartburn about that, but now you talk to anybody on 1200 South, or everybody coming out of Lake Creek Farms, and it's like, that slows people from 40 to stop, and instead of going 40 to 60.
You say 60 to 40.
So to me, it's like, I'd like to see a three-way stop at the intersection of Big Hollow and 3000 South. And or a speed.
Yeah, stop sign, okay, what kind of sign?
Stop sign.
Where?
The intersection of 3000 and Big Hollow Road, three-way stop.
Let's slow them down.
Maybe.
Okay, so we have at least one sign that's been identified. What I'm hopefully going to do is write down the signs and have the council either think that all the signs are necessary or cut a few signs out, but get some signs up before the end of the first stop. Okay, that seems logical to have a stop sign there. Any place else?
So what would you like, 35 or 25? Tell us.
So Pam, up your way, a couple of signs, one off of 3000, one off of Tiancum, or where do you think a couple of signs, or one sign, or what?
I would think one on Tiancum off of Daniel Road, and then one
And what would that one say?
no school access. And then the one on Ranch and 3000, same. Because those intersect, and you get to get dead-ended in there if you go into searching to get into the school.
So you're saying two school accesses at those points up from Tiancum and up to 3000?
That would be my thought. Stephanie, do you have any?
Can we have the speed limit sign?
That's what we're talking about, so.
Like 25, I mean,
We can, that's something
can we
to our
ask for
prerogative.
it?
Yeah, use
That's separate from the school.
Separate?
There has been over the town, different 25 miles an hour, so housing, I don't know, where kids steal them and they take the pumps, and then 5 years later, we thought there was down there, but I'm sure there has been.
I don't think there's ever, I've been on ranch for 12 years, I don't think there's ever been a speed limit sign on that road.
So on Tiancum, is there a speed limit sign?
I don't think so. And I don't know that there ever has been, I don't remember ever seeing one, but
What would you
my
like?
memory's a little fuzzy.
Stephanie, which one?
I think every road in there.
25.
And where at?
Sure.
Yeah, at the beginning of Tiancum and off of Daniel and Tiancum, same sort of area that,
Back across from Kim's driveway.
yeah, in Kim's yard.
So now all these sides, we're getting down to what we're gonna have, whether we have them all or not, but these all make sense to me, and then we do wanna have appropriate signage, so. 25 speed limit would be where in the location?
Off of 3,000 in Ranch,
3,000.
What's the speed limit now?
there isn't one.
Unlimited.
There's never been a sign
About
there,
45.
to my knowledge, in 12 years. I've been there 12 years and I don't.
Depends on the morning or night.
I know, I think it's 60.
Okay, so that's 3 signs we're looking at. What other, we're gonna go around and look for other stop signs that might either be damaged as opposed to not, so we may probably gonna be replacing a few, but,
The one on Tiancum and Ranch is
It's falling over.
and that's what we're gonna look for, either a new post, a new something, we're just gonna,
We're gonna have to move it. They fixed it twice, it keeps getting hit.
They moved it when they did the water down there and then they never got it back up last summer, not this summer, but last summer. And the same with the dead end sign. And then the snowplow hit the dead end sign too.
Yeah,
The
see,
way that road keeps right there, I think they're.
He didn't read the sign.
So when, you know, we say a stop sign, but that also entails, because we have to follow state code, that also entails that we have to have a stop ahead sign. And there's a bunch of regulations we have to do for signs. So the state makes us do that, so we're not liable.
So do you have to go and, like what Joe said earlier about putting one on 3,000 in Big Hollow? Do you have to vote on that, like bring it before the whole, everybody, or?
well,
Is that up to you guys?
that's up to us as far as us putting these signs out. That's kind of what, so it came up last, was coming for a while. It came up last month, and that's what we wanted to have on the agenda. So, yeah, I mean, we can put the signs that we need for our town, and we don't have to work or get a permission from anybody, but we love to have the public here, so.
Is there a, single file sign for bikers?
I think just to keep out or stay off. That's the signs I can put up.
Single file?
But isn't the law single file?
Single file.
Isn't the law single
That is a
traffic?
law.
The law is single file, but I don't think they know that.
They're sure not even,
But is there a sign?
they're not living.
There's no sign. And we have, I mean, it may, I can write that down, and as we discuss it, you know, if they can't follow a stop sign, I don't know if they're gonna follow that sign. So, that's,
They got their own
I think, you
law.
know,
Yeah, but it could be, it could reduce somebody's liability if you know, accidentally click one that's not right in single file. You can say, hey, there's a sign on this road post.
Might even
You're
give
still
them
gonna
think
do
a
it.
little bit,
Yeah.
maybe.
so I do have a bike lane written down, as part of the sign. I
A bike
don't
lane.
know that we're gonna
Bike
focus on
lanes.
bike lanes or have access to bike
They're
lanes.
they're off the pavement. Bike lanes are off the pavement.
Okay,
There's no enforcement.
any other important signs that anybody, yes,
Other than you
Kim?
flipping your light.
They're talking about the big hollow in 3,000 South, and that's a three-way stop. But what I'm wondering is the sign that's put up before the stop sign, would that read stop ahead, or would that sign read three-way stop ahead?
Ball freeway.
Well,
Or always stop, I've seen them.
Well, we'll have to do whatever the state calls for.
Right.
So,
Get a traffic engineer on it.
they have,
I only do
In the existing four-way stops that we have in town, the signs we have in front of those just say stop ahead.
Some don't even have that though.
we have a few, and we did have
Some
one.
don't, some do.
Yeah, they all did it one time.
but a lot of bedrooms probably have that sign in there now.
So that's what we're trying to kind of correct that one, and I think that is, like Eric said, that is a state law on any stop sign, so. Okay, any other signs that we feel is necessary? I've got the stop signs, I've got the no school access signs, I got a speed limit sign, 25 and 3,000 in Ranch, I got a bike lane suggested for a sign. Anything else?
Microchip on the stones.
Okay,
So one I'd like to see, Chip, and probably three of them,
okay.
is the entrances to the town. I'd like a sign that says, building permit and excavation permit required.
All three corners?
Say entrances to town.
Yeah, still won't read it.
I know, but at least I could drive them down and show it to them.
There's no ignorance here.
Anything else? Not, let's find out on what the state code is and some of the things we'll find out, and then we'll probably implement it at this next meeting and implement it after we understand our parameters we can put our signs in as far as location, meaning spaces. Does that need to be continued?
Well, yeah, but are we, the action on that item, are you sending that to GDA to review the requirements from the state?
Yeah, so, yeah, I guess I was assuming that, so we would like GD to make sure that we do the right signage in the right spots for sure.
Okay.
Sorry for assuming that.
We'll get the inventory updated and then make a recommendation on these signs as well as whatever else we find in the inventory, what's no longer there.
Yeah, and that's something we did talk about before, I should have mentioned. So there is somewhat of an inventory right now of our signs, and Eric, Ryan has it. We're just gonna update that and add anything new that we needed to. So we will always know after this is done where our signs should have been, or should be. Okay? Anything else on that?
I think that's it, so motion to continue.
A motion to continue? A second? Any other discussion on the signs? Not, all in favor? Aye? Any opposed? Okay. Yep, Daniel Municipal Water issues as necessary. Send the time over to Kim for Daniel Municipal. Be good and exciting, or?
Well, I've got to back up. I reported that the data line going to the pump house had been put back up on the power poles, and I found out last week it is still laying on the ground.
Yeah, I think wasn't the last time or last few times we talked about it, we thought it was up out of the way and.
Yeah, we went through the motions of working with 3 property owners, Utah Power and Light, and they did some trimming up there because the trees were shorting out that line. And then CenturyLink was supposed to move in after all that was done and put the data line back up on the poles. And they have not done that yet.
So what would make that need to happen? Or what would we need to do to make that happen? Call them
You've got to
again?
go back to the 3 property owners and notify them you'd like to get in on the property again. Get a hold of Utah Power and Light once again.
Really?
Have them get the crews out there to trim some of the branches even more, and then call CenturyLink and bring them out, and they'd hire a crew to come out and put the data line up.
So is it on the ground, so it was on the ground, we got it off the ground, it's on the ground, and it's causing us problems to get on the ground.
The problem that we have eliminated is the power line shorting out and causing the pumps not to run, which means it doesn't fill the tank, which means the town doesn't gain water. We have solved that problem for at least 2 years, I think. The data line, the danger of having it laying on the ground is susceptible to damage. So,
Do you see, so that's something that I or you or someone needs to make a phone call on just to see what, you know, obviously they should have done the work first time, they're not, they didn't.
yeah, I'll try to follow through with all those areas. That's fine. And then the only other thing that I can think of is there's been 3 lots on 3,000 South and about 400 West. What is that subdivision called, Eric?
Is that 3 farms?
3 farms. One of the owners wanted to set the water meter. And I went down to do that, and it was 1 1/4 or 1 inch setter, and it didn't fit our 5/8 meters. And I told them at that time, we could still put a larger meter in, but it would be $70 a month more, plus the cost of the meter, and you'd have so much water pressure, you could probably wet the runway down from there with a garden hose. So I'm hoping what they decide to do is put, Joe, you might be able to answer this, you know a little bit about setters, and Adam?
I don't know nothing.
Yeah. But they might be able to reduce that 1 1/4 setter down to where it fits a 5/8 meter. And they don't have to dig that up and redo it.
Just depends on if it's too long, the meter.
Probably have to dig it up. But that's easy.
Would that be normal for a homeowner to do that? Wouldn't we normally do that?
No, I think the plan even states it's a 5/8 meter. Huh?
It needs to be a 5/8 meter. And the plans we approved showed a 5/8 meter and 1 inch laterals, so.
But you go to put a 5/8 meter in the setter they have now, and there's 3 inches on each side. And that's why I was thinking maybe they had an adapter for that, but they don't.
Oh, well, maybe.
What brand meter is it?
Master.
Oh, Master? I'm sure you can get it from Outrun. Just buy an adapter, go from your meter up to their 1 1/4 setter, and still gonna be the same amount of water going for that meter.
So if it's all right with the council, I'll just suggest that to the 3 homeowners.
Okay, there might be a fire flow issue.
Do they have fire?
Fire.
They have fire in their houses?
But you only got an each line, and each line's an each line.
Yeah.
Right, but I've had the fire marshal tell me that they can get fire flow through an inch line, but they can't get it through a 3/4 meter, so.
But they don't have fire sprinklers, do they?
I don't know, that's why I was asking Ryan.
I don't believe so. I'd have to check the permits again, but I don't believe.
I was gonna say,
I
I
don't
thought
believe
Dan
there's
said they
sprinklers.
weren't doing fire sprinklers in any one of those houses out there.
They could have a hydrant down the end, don't they?
Yeah, I think that the
It's
point,
not.
the point of the 8-inch water line and fire hydrants was so they didn't have to sprinkle.
Because when I made this house, it didn't have fire sprinklers on them.
That's probably more accurate than the permit.
I would agree.
Well, no, the county has several criteria that make them sprinkle. Square footage is one, urban interface is another. They have a lot of, and it's currently being updated at the state level right now as we speak.
Just buy the adapters. I think the adapter's a good idea, Ken.
You're free to find it.
Well, you can find them. If not, I'll make some.
Yeah, that's definitely the cheaper way. I just don't, how did we end up with 1-inch setter?
A mistake. So the plans that were approved called for a 3/4 inch setter. So it was, I think they saw the 1 inch lateral and ordered 1 inch setters.
I don't blame it for running a 1-inch line. That's a long lateral. And it's long. It's gonna be 400 feet.
Geez, I've got a 5/8 run in my house, it's 800 feet, Eric, and the water pressure at my place would be probably 110, down where those guys are at, well, after the reducer was put on. It used to be about 120, and down where you're at, you're blowing hydrants apart. If you
Yeah,
don't-
but I have a 2-inch water line running back 300 feet.
You know, come think about it, I do have a 2-inch water line.
You have a big one.
But I have
I
a
wasn't gonna throw you
5/8
under the
meter.
Right, and if you
Okay.
talk to the engineers, that you can go little for a little bit and then back, and
I
you don't
read-
lose a lot.
Okay.
So do we answer your question, or you just add that comment and we just had that discussion?
I don't know where we're at.
Buy the things, the adapters if they have them. I mean, that's definitely the cheapest way to go.
Okay.
I mean, there's probably some recourse as far as the setter goes, if they put in the wrong setter. They do.
Back charge them for the fitting and stuff.
On one of them, I think we also had a depth issue that we were talking, you know, I recommended a resetter would be acceptable, so they don't have to dig it back up again, but the detail calls for the meter to be 18 inches to 24 inches deep so that we can get to it if we need to. And the one was really deep, and so I said a resetter would be acceptable so that they don't have to dig it up and fix it.
Yeah.
Trying to accommodate getting the job done, but not getting meters down 5 feet deep that we have to stand on our head to get to.
Check it out here.
Moving on to item 7, back to you, Kim. Any Stormhaven matters, if any?
I put a draft in front of the council members, the draft letter. And that's a situation that comes up every once in a while with customers. They'll say, you know, we're gonna move away for 3 years and then we're gonna come back. But while we're gone, we don't want to pay our water bill. And, you know, that's not the way the whole thing's structured. Once you've got a meter in a box, you're part of the system. And that monthly payment, the town counts on that coming in to maintain the system, to expand the system. And I'm sure that there's a town resolution to that effect, is there not?
With regards to turning off long-term or something?
That once a meter and box is set, that will produce that monthly base rate.
Once the ability to get water is there.
Yeah, just because you leave for 3 months, you gotta keep paying.
But the one thing in that draft is I want to be able to make sure the customer understands the situation they're in. I would hate to see somebody say, that's okay, take the meter out and that's it, I'm done. And then they came back in 3 years and said, okay, hook it back up. And you inform them that there's a hookup fee of $15,000. I mean, really, I want to make sure everybody understands how this works so that there's no surprises.
I think your draft is to the point, and I think they would understand.
They should.
They should.
Then there's a couple of details with that particular individual that Kathy Joel will have to get with and fill the blanks in. The amount.
So this individual is not asking to be disconnected, are they?
No, but they're not paying their water bill.
Right, that's a different issue than somebody asking to be disconnected. I mean, in a way, you don't pay your water bill, you're asking, I understand.
But does this customer understand the expense to reconnect?
Right.
Because if he does, I'm assuming he's going to take the option of bringing his account up to date.
Right.
The other thing with Stormhaven is once you disconnect, there might not be any water available for you. There's a moratorium up there for years.
Yeah. I gotta have bigger print on that last 2 sentences.
Mayor Lance Turner.
Oh, no.
I can't even see that. I like the letter, and I think that when you feel it's necessary, I certainly would have a motion to approve this letter if that's what you're looking for.
Well, there's a date on there that only allows about 29 days. Are you all right with that? And we might want to change that to December 31st.
Well, that takes us back to the other discussion we've had with regards to the 2 times a year. You know, we were trying to do it before winter hits and after winter is done. That would put us back into the winter season, which, do you think that would cause a headache?
I think that at our option, we could do it any time after that if we wanted. We do have another situation where it's been over a year. And we send out a certified letter, but we still have that option.
Is that one not taken care of yet?
No. But please, Mayor, you have to realize that person is paying their water bill and they're paying their overusage. The only problem that's up there, and I want to make sure the council understands this, is he does have a hydrant that he could run anytime he wants, 24/7, that is not metered. So I don't want anybody to really panic on this issue, but
Well, my understanding and look at it is that's unmetered. We already have a moratorium on that system, and he's using whatever X amount out of that that's not being metered, so there's two strikes right there. And I've got plenty of phone calls thinking that was supposed to be done and thought it actually